In this video, we're going to determine the top 5 best and worst cities when it comes to summer weather. So we're going to determine this by a variety of factors such as temperatures, humidity, the amount of rainy days, the amount of sunny days, because they all contribute to how comfortable or uncomfortable the summer weather will be in a specific location. So here's a map I made regarding the most comfortable areas in the United States when it comes to summer weather and most uncomfortable areas for the United States. And we do see that much of the Southeast typically tends to see more uncomfortable conditions, mainly due to the humidity and heat. But which city will experience the worst weather this summer, and which city will experience the best summer this weather? I'll answer that question in this video with a top 5 list. So the 5th best city when it comes to summer weather is San Francisco, California, for obvious reasons. The first primary reason for this is due to the sea surf temperatures just off the San Francisco coast, where we do see that along the San Francisco coast that sea surf temperatures are hovering towards the lower 50s, and that plays a big role in terms of moderating the temperature during the summer. And since the sea surf temperatures are so cold, that moderates the air temperature during the summer, so it never gets too hot in San Francisco, and also it never gets too humid because the air surrounding the cooler sea surf temperatures are cool enough to a point where they won't hold a lot of water vapor for San Francisco to be uncomfortably humid as well, even though it's right next to the water. So this plays a big role in terms of definitely moderating the temperature as well as stabilizing the atmosphere right around San Francisco for the weather to mainly stay moderate, for the temperature to mainly stay at a comfortable range, and it never gets too humid as well. Another big thing that definitely moderates the weather over San Francisco in the summer is this huge Pacific high, which prevents any troughs from being able to move into San Francisco for majority of the summer, which is the reason why San Francisco only averages one rainy day a summer due to this Pacific high. It's just so strong, deters any troughs from being able to move into San Francisco. So for the most part, it's sunny all summer long along the coast. We clearly see the effects of this Pacific ridge, as California rarely receives any rainfall throughout the entirety of the year, especially in the summer when the Pacific ridge definitely becomes a lot stronger along the California coast. So it's very rare for a storm to ever move in along the California coast, let alone San Francisco, thanks to how strong that Pacific ridge is during the summer. And of course, thanks to this Pacific ridge, the amount of sunny days is a lot higher along the west coast, where the darker reds represents more sunshine, the lighter reds or the oranges and the yellows represents less sunshine. We do see that during the summer months, the state that easily receives the most sunshine during the summer is California, where all summer long it receives much more sunshine compared to other states throughout the United States. And it's due to this very strong Pacific ridge, which is the reason why in the top 5 best summer weather cities list, it's gonna definitely heavily lean towards California, mainly due to the fact, and big reason is due to the fact that it's sunny all summer long for the most part throughout the state. And of course, we see that the average high temperature for the month of July right around San Francisco is not that bad. And in fact, this map isn't necessarily representing the actual average high temperature for July in San Francisco. The average high in San Francisco in the month of July is hovering around 74 degrees, which is definitely very, very comfortable. It's going to be very rare that you'll be out there sweating, and it is great summer weather to always be outside, and it definitely won't be very humid either, thanks to the much cooler than average sea surface temperatures. Now, the city with the 4th best summer weather is Honolulu, Hawaii, with an average high temperature hovering around 86, and it does average 17 rainy days, but it definitely is still a very nice city when it comes to summer weather. A big reason why Hawaii made the top 5 best summer weather cities list is because the sea surf temperatures, while they are definitely warmer than what you'd find along the coast of California, they still aren't intensely warm to the point where it'll bring a much more humid conditions, and it won't necessarily bring the temperature at a range that's too hot for many citizens in Honolulu, Hawaii. So that definitely plays a major role in terms of moderating the temperature throughout the city. The third best city when it comes to summer weather is San Jose, California, for many of the same reasons as San Francisco, California, which makes sense due to their close proximity to each other, with an average high of 81 degrees and only averages one rainy day per summer. And with its low humidity, it makes it a great city when it comes to summer weather. Like I said, for San Francisco, the cool Alaskan current that moves down the California coast definitely does help moderate the temperature right around San Jose, to the point where the temperature won't ever get too hot thanks to the Pacific Ocean cooling down the air temperature, and it will never get too humid either because the cooler air mass over the Pacific Ocean is cool enough to a point where it won't hold a lot of water vapor and create very humid conditions along the coast. And of course, thanks to this big Pacific ridge that typically is parked over California in the summer and is much stronger during the summer, that definitely will bring more sunny than average conditions to San Jose, to the point where I will rank it as my top 5 city when it comes to summer weather. The second best city when it comes to summer weather is San Diego, California, with an average high temperature hovering around 82, and you guys only experience one rainy day per summer, and of course, very low humidity. So very similar forecast to San Jose, California, but the reason why I rank it slightly higher is because the temperature does get definitely warmer than what you'd find in San Jose and San Francisco, as that definitely will create more summer-like conditions. A big reason why San Diego, California is definitely warmer than what the temperatures you'd find in San Jose and San Francisco is sea surf temperatures. And right now we're in the middle of May, but typically during the peak summer months, for San Diego, the sea surf temperatures hover in the upper 60s, which definitely helps bring the temperature a lot to a point that's marginally warmer than what you'd find in San Jose and San Francisco, to a point where it'll feel more like summer. The beaches will be more enjoyable thanks to the warmer sea surface temperatures. It won't be that much warmer, but it certainly is definitely more swimmable than the water you'd find in San Jose and San Francisco. And of course, the sea surf temperatures aren't necessarily warm enough either to make the temperature ever too hot most of the time in San Diego. And of course, it won't ever make it too humid either, because the cooler air mass over the Pacific won't hold a lot of water vapor, since the temperature is still too cold for it to be that humid over San Diego, which is the reason why I rank it as the second best city when it comes to summer weather. Now, the U.S. city I rank as having the best summer weather is Los Angeles, California. And like I was saying earlier, this list is going to pretty much be filled with Californian cities, mainly because of the big Pacific Ridge that brings much more sunny than average conditions. The Pacific Ocean definitely moderates the temperature, and same goes for Los Angeles. Thanks to the strong Pacific Ridge that builds over the eastern half of the Pacific, that definitely will bring drier than average conditions to Los Angeles. That will bring many days where it's sunny, as Los Angeles in the summer, in fact, averages 0 rainy days, as it's thanks in part due to the fact that it is under a slight rain shadow from the mountains surrounding Los Angeles, as it won't necessarily experience any rain from the monsoon that typically goes on around Arizona during the late July into early August timeframe. So that definitely helps when it comes to bringing almost sunny conditions every day in Los Angeles. Like I said, the West Coast is bound to experience a lot more sunshine during the summer thanks to this Pacific Ridge, including Los Angeles. and the temperature never gets too warm either, thanks to the very cool Pacific waters that moderate the temperature around Los Angeles, which is the reason why I rank it as the best city when it comes to summer weather. Averages 0 rainy days, which is less than what you'd find in other California cities, not by much, because San Diego and San Jose only average 1 rainy day a summer. But the mountains surrounding Los Angeles definitely put Los Angeles in a rain shadow that prevents nearly any rain from moving in to the city in the summer months, and the amount of sunshine along with the temperature that never gets too hot. Los Angeles is a perfect city when it comes to summer weather. Now, moving on to my top 5 worst cities when it comes to summer weather, and the 5th worst city when it comes to summer weather, or most uncomfortable city, is San Antonio, Texas, which has an average high temperature of 96, 12 rainy days, and a dew point at 69 degrees, which is very uncomfortable for that city. One of the big reasons why San Antonio is so uncomfortable during the summer when it comes to weather is due to the fact that its close proximity to the Gulf of Mexico, which typically during the peak summer months rises into the upper 80s to low 90s, which definitely heats up the air along the coast and definitely brings a lot more humidity since the air mass over the nearly 90-degree water is so warm to a point where it's able to hold a lot more water vapor than, let's say, in areas where the sea surface temperatures are colder, such as along the west coast. So that definitely does raise the humidity around San Antonio, and it's also due to the fact that it's just very far southward. It receives a lot of sunlight, and that will certainly raise the temperature up to close to the 100-degree range, which is very uncomfortable for the city. We see that during the summer months, such as the middle of July, San Antonio nearly receives as much sunshine as the West Coast states do, such as California, Oregon, Idaho, and Washington. But the thing is that it is, unlike the West Coast, San Antonio isn't moderated by cool sea surface temperatures, as the waters in the Gulf of Mexico are much warmer. So that brings a combination of a high amount of sunshine, a high amount of humidity, and that just creates just very, very uncomfortable conditions for the city. Another thing too is that San Antonio does receive more rainfall than a lot of other areas in the United States, especially the western half of the United States. However, I didn't rank it that much worse because it's still out of the areas where you do receive more thunderstorm activity, such as the eastern portion of the Gulf of Mexico. San Antonio is still somewhat further from the Gulf of Mexico to avoid a lot of the thunder showers and, of course, the tropical cyclones that move in, which is why it isn't as high on my list, and it's still at least marginally far enough from the Gulf of Mexico to not be as high as other cities I'm mentioned in this list. So it does avoid some of the humidity, but still the temperature is very hot, gets close to 100 on average in San Antonio, and it's still very humid relative to other places in the United States. The 4th most uncomfortable city when it comes to summer weather is Houston, Texas, with an average high temperature of 94. And while that is 2 degrees colder than what you'd find in San Antonio, Houston averages more rainy days and a noticeably higher humidity over the city, thanks to its closer proximity to the warm Gulf of Mexico waters. We see in this map that since Houston is closer to the Gulf of Mexico than San Antonio, Houston does receive a lot more rainfall on average, which definitely does make this a worse city than San Antonio. You're bound to experience more rainy days, more thunderstorm activity, more tropical cyclones, and it's also due to the fact that it's just straight up more humid since it's so close to the Gulf of Mexico, which will make conditions even more uncomfortable than what you'd find in San Antonio, despite the fact that the temperatures are 2 degrees lower than what you find in San Antonio. The 3rd worst city when it comes to summer weather is Tampa, Florida, with an average high temperature of 91 and receives noticeably more rainy days than what you'd find in Texas, with 35 rainy days and slightly higher humidity than what you find in Houston, with a 75-degree dew point, which is just very, very uncomfortable. One of the things that makes Tampa even worse than the Texas cities is due to the fact that it's even closer to the water. And not only that, it's a little bit further southward in latitude. So typically the sea surf temperatures along the Gulf of Mexico get even warmer than what you'd find further northward up towards Houston. And since Tampa Bay is relatively enclosed, the sea surf temperatures accelerate a lot faster when it comes to warming up. So Tampa definitely experiences a lot more, well, a decently stronger amount of humidity as well as warmer temperatures, thanks to the fact that the sea surf temperatures are even warmer than what you'd find along the coast of Houston. Tampa is also bound to experience a lot more rainy days due to its position, because since Houston is located towards the westernmost point of the Gulf of Mexico, it doesn't necessarily experience many thunderstorms because, of course, weather moves from a westerly to easterly direction. So all the thunderstorms that develop in the western Gulf of Mexico tend to impact the areas further eastward. So Houston and San Antonio is a lot safer when it comes to thunderstorm activity in the summer, as well as tropical cyclone activity. However, for Florida, the atmosphere has a large area where it could develop thunderstorm activity to move, and then of course, since it moves from a west to easterly direction, Tampa gets pounded by numerous summer thunderstorms, which is a reason why it experiences many more rainy days than what you'd find in Houston, and almost 3 times more rainy days than what you'd find in San Antonio, which is the reason why I rank it as an even worse city when it comes to summer weather. My second worst city when it comes to summer weather is New Orleans, with an average high temperature of 92, 27 rainy days, as well as a high dew point of 75 degrees. Like I said, for Tampa, the warm Gulf of Mexico sea surf temperatures definitely help bring a lot more humidity to New Orleans, which makes it a very uncomfortable city when it comes to summer weather, and just brings the overall temperature very high, which makes it super, super uncomfortable for New Orleans. New Orleans is also more bound to experience more tropical cyclone landfalls than any other city I mentioned, such as Houston, Tampa, and of course San Antonio, where typically one hurricane makes landfall every 7 years around the New Orleans area, while for Tampa, it only happens once every 10 years, and even less frequently than that, which suddenly makes New Orleans a worse weather city when it comes to the summer, since hurricanes and tropical cyclones in general are more likely to make landfall or at least approach the area than what you'd see in other southeast cities. Now, the city I rank as having the worst summer weather is Orlando, Florida, with an average high temperature of 92, 32 rainy days, and a high humidity with a 74-degree dew point, which will just make conditions very uncomfortable for Orlando. And it's for much of the same reasons I mentioned with Florida and Louisiana and Texas. It's very close proximity to the warm Atlantic waters, as well as the Gulf of Mexico waters, will make the temperatures very high, the humidity very high, and thanks to its latitude being very far south, it receives a lot of sunshine to raise up that temperature, and it experiences almost more rainy days than any other southeast city due to the fact that it's surrounded all by water, which definitely enhances the amount of thunderstorm activity that occurs around Orlando, and of course enhances the humidity, which is the reason why I rank Orlando as a U.S. city with the most uncomfortable summer weather. So do you guys agree with this list? Make sure to comment down your thoughts down below. If you agree with the list, disagree, have any other suggestions regarding which cities are more uncomfortable during the summer. But these are my top 5 best and worst summer cities for the summer months. So thank you guys for watching, and make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather-related content and more content like this.